see. Same sort of caveats with what I'm going to talk about. It's only been, I would say, 27 days since September 8th, so the data that we're finding right now is very preliminary. And I looked at about 10 sites, about 60 million hits from SEO. So it sounds like it's a lot, but overall it applies to the type of clients that my company has, and again, there's in reality a small subset of all the data that's going on, all the searches that are going on. So with that in mind, we'll take a look at some of the results that we've seen by analyzing traffic and rankings for a bunch of sites since Instant launched. So here are the four things that I'm going to talk about. One is, what are the impact of seeing less space on the results page? There's less results now that you see above the fold because that Instant box drops down and covers some of them. Second, I'm going to talk about something we call long-tail keyword compression. So this is, I think, an interesting way of looking at the effect on long-tail keywords. It's not that we're seeing the length of the keyword phrase going down. It's more that we're seeing the same amount of traffic or more traffic from what you consider the long tail, but less variation within the long tail. Google Instant making people be a little bit more consistent or a little more universal in the long tail searches that they're using. Two other interesting ones that apply to a smaller subset of sites. One is the effect on rich media that we're seeing. We'll go into this better engagement from rich media results in the SERP. And the last one, the prude paradox, how Google's prudishness about Google Instant is affecting sites. That one I'll leave the explanation to the end, just to have people think about how it could possibly affect sites. So we'll start with the less space. Again, like I said, people are seeing less results now on Instant before having to scroll down than they were before. And based on that, this is kind of what I thought would happen. Results that originally would have been above the fold, but now are below the fold, they should have dropped in traffic. It seems right that people aren't going to see them on the screen anymore. They should lose traffic. And I kind of wrote a thing to all our clients that expect that this is probably going to happen, and then I was totally wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. So what we actually saw happen was growth in those positions. Not a tremendous amount of growth. It was only about 6% growth. But still, people were clicking on the results even though they dropped below the fold. And I found that very interesting, and it kind of was nice to see from Ian's presentation that kind of saw that as well, that behavior had changed. And even I think on the Instant image, it seemed like people were clicking a little bit lower.
Certainly looking lower anyway, yeah.
Looking lower. Yeah. And that matched up when I stopped taking them out of groups and I put them into, okay, what's happening on each and every position once Google Instant came. So one thing I don't totally understand is that position 1 across the board went down by a tiny percentage, less than about 1%. Overall positions in that base group. Positions 5 and 6 did drop a little bit when I looked at them individually. Those are the first two that were going to drop below the fold. But what's really interesting is that there was a lot of growth in those lower positions, especially positions 9 and 10. This is just percentage of growth. So in general, the rules that you all have in place, that keyword, position 1 is going to drive most of the traffic, then 2, then 3, that's still in place. Overwhelmingly, most of the traffic is still going to be driven by the first 3 positions, the top of the page. But in percentage change, even though it's a much smaller number and a much smaller sample of keywords that are consistently ranking for a client in 9th or 10th position, there was growth there, and there's something that I found interesting from Instant, that it seems to be encouraging more scroll behavior. People see the couple results on the page, or less results above the fold now. There's less options, so if you want to see more, you scroll, and it seems like people are just scrolling all the way to the bottom of the page, seeing the rest of the results instead of just scrolling a little bit and seeing 1 or 2 more results. And that seems to be helping these bottom positions. We did see a drop off on page 2 results. Again, not that much traffic is driven by results that appear not on page 1, but from a percentage difference, they went down. These keywords went up, so it makes sense that if you're ranking right now at position 11 or 12, and you have been pushing off work to get yourself to position 10 or 9, it's probably a good time to do it. Or once adoption gets a little bigger for Google Instant. The other thing that we saw, this is something that we thought might happen, was that as people start to use instant, as they start typing a longer phrase, if they were going to use a less popular version or less searched version of that phrase, Google Instant is focusing them on the more popular version of that phrase. So it's introducing a little bit more conformity or universality in the way that people search for long tail phrases. So we expected to see less phrases in general being used. This is kind of the example that I gave. If you count on some sort of obscure long tail phrase, like if you want an adapter for your iPod for your car, so some people call them adapters, plugs, whatever. Some people call them cables. Very few people. So the sites that would rank for something like iPod car cables, I don't think most users would get to the point where they'd be typing that whole search. This would be a great thing to see, like from an eye tracking study, before they start seeing product results for the adapter, which is what they wanted anyways. So this is where I thought I'd see stuff drop off. And this is basically what we saw, taking out, we would consider head keywords that drive more than 10% of the traffic, and branded keywords. So looking at a drop less than 15 million